Hello, everyone, and welcome to Engage to Excel's conversation series. I'm just going to leave some time to let everyone join the webinar. Hello, Roy.
Hello there. How are you, Tamika?
Good, very well. Thank you. Okay, we have people coming in.
Wonderful. It's certainly going to be a good topic today.
Yes, absolutely. I'm very excited to talk about this. So hello, everyone. Welcome to those who are just joining us. Today's conversation will cover tips to find out exactly how your employees prefer to be recognized, and we'll have Roy answer your questions live while we're having the conversation. Before we get started, as usual, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items. We encourage everyone to ask questions by using the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen, as your microphone will be muted. If we don't have time to get to your questions, know that we'll follow up with you personally via email. Lastly, this conversation is being recorded. It will be available on the Engage to Excel Vimeo channel within 3 business days, and we'll make sure to send you a link via email when it's ready to watch. So for today's conversation, I am joined by Roy Sanderson, the Chief Learning Officer of Engage to Excel. Roy has been with us for a few years now, but he has been in the employee recognition fields for more than 24 years. He is also the author of Practicing Recognition, How to Give Meaningful Recognition to People Every Day. Roy, again, thank you so much for joining us today to answer our questions.
It's good to be here, and let's rock and roll, right?
Yes, let's get started. So this is such a popular topic. We always try to gather the most popular questions from our clients. So my first question is, where should leaders begin with figuring out their employees' recognition preferences?
You know, I could start off with a very corny line, Tamika. That's just simply just to ask. You know, and I think if people can just plan into their time with their staff, their employees, you know, an opportunity for even 10 to 15 minutes to have what I call a recognition preference interview. You know, if it can be a sit down, if we have that opportunity, if we're back in the office together, or even if it's just a video chat, let's get together and then ask your employees great questions. If we are on site, we have the opportunity to observe perhaps their workplace, their workspace, their office, their anywhere in the plant where there might be some essence of who they are, whether it be pictures, notes, plaques, wherever those things might be allowed. I know in a lot of open offices, you can't even put things up anymore. So that's kind of disappeared. So you've got to be a good observer. And when you're conversing with someone at any time, let alone during a more formal sit down time, be listening. I mean, listen to those conversations, pick up on their hobbies, their interests, things they did on the weekend, things about their family, for example. And then if they do have an office space and you see a picture on the wall of their family, or you see a picture of them playing sports or things like this, these are the interests that you can pick up on. It's kind of like being a little bit of a detective sometimes, besides asking good questions.
Actually, this is a very good point. It allows people to give more personalized recognition. Mm-hmm. Apart from that, I'm sure many of our viewers would love some insights of questions they could ask if they don't have time to make those other observations. So what questions can they ask to their employees?
Sure. I think the first thing is just to find out about an employee's needs for recognition. We can tend to think a little cookie cutterish in thinking everyone wants the same kind of recognition, and no, that's not the case. Now, I'm going to give you some suggestions for questions to ask. Don't feel you have to write them all down or ask them exactly the same way. These are not magical words. These are just some thoughts around what you might ask. But, you know, first off is how do you best like to be recognized? I mean, you know, you're going to hear some open-ended comments from people when you ask those kind of questions. When do you expect to be recognized? Some people like to be almost acknowledged all the time. There's almost a need for social reinforcement when they've done something positive, something good. Other people are happy to work away and maybe not even here for 3-4 weeks. It might be a sit down performance review where things come up, but you don't know that about each person. So finding that out allows you to gauge the needs a little bit more about when to recognize them and how they best like to be recognized. Some people like something tangible, some people don't. So what type of tangible recognition is most meaningful to a person? You could ask about that. And then don't forget, especially if you're a leader, team leader, manager, ask them, how am I doing in recognizing you? I mean, you may think, and most managers do, think that they're doing a great job of recognizing their employees. And that might be, in a broad stroke, they might be doing quite well. But then you hit on individually, and you might follow into some of Paul White's kind of work on the 5 languages of appreciation. You might find out that someone wants some one-on-one time with their supervisor or manager, and you're just expressing words of affirmation. You thought you were doing a good job, but that's not the recognition that one individual wanted. So I think that's important to kind of tailor to the needs, find out, explore by asking the right questions. And when you have a question about something, about how they want to be recognized, turn that into a question to ask them. And you'll be amazed how open people are, especially about this topic, because they want the recognition. They just want it the right way for them.
Yes, and these are very tough questions to ask, right? Because it's not every day that you hear that a manager asking their employee exactly how they want to be recognized. But
no,
there's actually a lot of research that shows employees may receive little to no recognition in the workplace. So how should a manager address this in a sit-down meeting?
Yeah, and I think, that sit-down meeting, as we've said, especially in this hybrid workforce world that we're in, whether you're face-to-face literally or virtually, I think it's really important to find out how to give recognition the right way for an individual. It should be, obviously it should be given as immediate as possible after you've observed, positive behaviors from someone or they've achieved something. I found that if you give recognition, as we've talked about before with the 2-part specificity rule, where you specifically acknowledge the behavior or the achievement of the individual, and then when you specifically tell them the difference or the impact that their activities have made on people, that really resonates. And so you can do that right away or shortly thereafter. But there are still some things I think that a manager should learn about a person's timing preferences, as I've alluded to, as far as, do they like that right away stuff, or do they want to wait till they have their, regular chat with you? Some people have bi-weekly, monthly meetings with their supervisor or manager. Are they okay waiting for that time? Or do they want to hear right away? That's very important. So how often do they like to be recognized? Find that out. Ask, am I giving you recognition in a timely manner? And if they can tell you that, no, you're off the mark, or thanks for being so consistent with that. How soon after a significant contribution or achievement would they like to be recognized? Notice we're going a little deeper here. We're getting very granular on the different types of work performance, activities that go on. And now we're starting to get a picture. Before, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. If you like doing those, you have to do all the edges first because they're quite obvious. And so some of these questions get to the obvious recognition. But now as we start moving in and start forming the rest of the picture, we get a different view of each individual on their preferences for recognition. We might ask Do they receive frequent recognition from other people across the organization? You may be doing great as a supervisor, manager, or leader, but they don't hear from anybody else. And you might have to facilitate that more. Work with your recognition managers and your HR professionals to say, hey, I'm doing a great job, but some of my employees work with different departments and they're not hearing any feedback. They're not hearing any acknowledgement. They do this work, they send it out, and it's crickets. They don't hear anything. So this could be a breakdown that organizationally we're not doing a good job. So that's why I think it's important to go a little deeper by asking these kind of questions, because now you get an organizational feel as well as a personal feel for how you're doing, how their peers are doing with recognizing their colleagues.
This is great feedback. And we're also getting questions from the audience.
Oh, great, please.
Yes. So someone is asking, should this be built into your onboarding orientation program?
Oh, I love this question because I'm a great believer that you could be asking these questions right from the get-go. You just now have to be committed that you're going to do something about it. Because like any survey, any interview, if you don't take action on the answers to the questions, you've just failed people, right? You've set them up with an expectation and then you drop the ball and right from the get-go. So I think it's good to do these kind of questions at the onboarding stage, so long as you have the practices and the programs in place that can help you be consistent and respond appropriately to the answers that you've got from these new employees. So yeah, that's a great idea if you can do it then.
Yes, that was a very good question and also a great idea. Thank you for your comment. So you often speak of how you give recognition as just being as important as what you say. What should managers be more mindful of?
Yeah, I think we've kind of alluded to a little bit of this about, who do they most prefer to be recognized by in some cases, because, some people, they don't even see their manager or their supervisor. I think of healthcare, where, nurses interact more with other nurses and they don't even see their manager that often. So how are your peers doing in giving you recognition? How do you feel when you're verbally acknowledged? Some people want more of not necessarily verbal. They want that time. Time is valuable to them. Sometimes they want something tangible to acknowledge what they're doing, the great things they're doing. If you're looking at, say, written recognition, for example, you could start asking people, what do they like a written note? Are they okay with email? Do they actually get emails, for example? What about text? What about social media? Different organizations will kind of build in these ideas and opportunities on the written side. Does getting recognized by a senior leader, is this important to them? So is it the next step up above you? Should you send a notification to the leader that you report to about an employee that you're recognizing them? Is that something that with that leader, are they going to now go onto a program and send an acknowledgement? Are they going to give them a call? Are they going to write a note? All the options that are available to them, that leader can then be a secondary reinforcer of what the manager might have recognized the employee for. And how important and valuable is it to them to receive a handwritten note? We certainly are getting much more technology minded today with our recognition, but there is no doubt that a well-written, handwritten thank you note is still very appreciated by many people. But find out. I mean, you might be writing thank you notes and cards to your staff, and they're chucking them all the time. Whereas for some people, it's if the relationship is strong between their manager and that employee, getting a handwritten note is going to be a keeper. And they're going to read it, they're going to feel good, and they're going to keep that card, and they're going to take it out of their drawer or off of the bulletin board or whatever and reread it every now and again because they want to feel good. They want to relive the experience of when they first got that note. I don't know, Tamika, have you got some thank you cards or notes that you've kept?
I do. I have a box of cards that I keep
A
actually.
box. I didn't even know this. Okay.
Yes, I keep everything I receive that is handwritten, actually.
So for you, in asking that
Mhm.
question, how valuable is it to you to receive a handwritten note? I would learn that is very important. So that's the kind of difference. Whereas for someone else, it's not going to ring true to them.
Yeah. So you've talked about how to give recognition. What about where to give recognition?
Yeah, the setting of how and where you give recognition is also very important, which we're kind of getting into now, finding out from an individual whether they like to be recognized publicly or privately. And then that can have all kinds of decision trees as well, because they might like to be recognized publicly, but not in a large group. It might be in the department, for example, rather than in front of the whole company. So, it's important to realize that, on average, 25% of our employees do not want any public recognition. Depending on the stereotypic characteristics of a profession, those that are less interacting with people, you think maybe engineers, accounting, technology specialists and things like this, those stereotypically, those type of professions don't like public recognition. So it could be even higher than 25%. So that's why it's important to ask whether they like public recognition. And then if they like private recognition, what do they want? Do they want it just one-on-one experience or with a few people? So notice you have to really drill down again. It's not just I like public, I like private. It's now, okay, you like private. How private? Is this just one-on-one if I see you, or would you like a few of your colleagues to be present when I recognize you? So is it important to you to be recognized with your team members present? Things like this. And how do you feel when you are being recognized in a large group? Find out, how do they feel? Don't just say, do you like to be, so in other words, use an open-ended question. How do you feel when you receive recognition in a public setting? I hate it. I'm embarrassed. I feel awkward. I think I'm going to trip when I go forward. You're going to hear those expressions. So you're going to know this is not just, I don't like public recognition. This is anxious. This is stressful. This is the worst thing you could do to someone in recognizing them publicly. So I think using open-ended questions as you ask and dig deeper is essential to understand the emotions behind the individual. So, find out if you're not having one-on-one meetings already, find out if it would be helpful to get regular frequent feedback in your one-on-one sessions if you have them. And if not, start having them. It's another way to recognize your employees. So this setting, creating the right environment is very good and very important. It's not only where, it's with who, and how that affects someone. If you dig deeper, you'll learn more information about where and when to give recognition.
Yes, I love all the tips you're giving for recognition because it makes it very personal to the person you're giving it. Now, I have a few more questions, but I just want to remind everyone, if you have questions that you would like us to respond to, I will ask them to Roy on the call right now. So, Roy, my next question is, I am curious to know what you think about giving people small tokens of appreciation, and how can managers find out the right thing to give to people?
Yeah, I think you can kind of create a bit of a checklist for yourself. What's your favorite food items? What's your favorite beverage, treats, snacks? Make a list of those items. I know an account where at a bank, the customer, tellers, at the bank. It was a hot summer day like we've been having lately. The air conditioning had broken down, and the manager was realizing that their customer service reps were working overtime, working hard, trying to solve all the crazy questions coming in. And the manager went out and came back with some pop, some soda, whatever you want to call it. And she went down along next to the CSRs, and she started putting down a can of pop next to each CSR. And they first thought, oh, that's kind of nice, just what we need. And then they stopped and went, wait a minute, that's my favorite drink. And each CSR is looking at one another. They didn't get the same drink as each other. They got their own favorite drink placed right next to them. That spoke volumes. It not only showed appreciation, but it showed an insight that manager had onto their individual preferences. And knowing that just magnified the action that was done by that manager. So when you start to get really personal for those infrequent opportunities to do those tokens of appreciation, I think now you're digging into hobbies, what they do in their spare time, sports interests, for example. I'm not a sports person, so don't give me anything sports oriented. But if you were, you might find out what their favorite sports team was, and bring a mug in that represents that sport team. I love books, for example. So knowing that people love books, maybe it's a gift card for a bookstore that's near them. So find out how worthwhile it is to people to receive maybe a restaurant gift card or points for choosing what they want. Or on some of our programs, we actually allow employees to identify what their interests are, so that a manager can actually gift some of those items through our programs. Would you enjoy receiving tickets for a movie? And I one of our banking clients, I interviewed the managers, and they did these kind of interviews with their manager, and they didn't realize that the online program only had a certain brand of theater or cinema that they could issue tickets for. Yet the cinema or theater that was closest to this one employee was a completely different brand of theater. And she realized she'd been giving tickets to this theater that like miles away if they wanted to enjoy them. So it was giving the wrong message. So she started giving tickets for this one brand. She had to go out and actually get them rather than use what was available on the program. And now there was a smile on that employee's face, because now they could enjoy 2 tickets, whatever, to see a show nearby. So notice how you have to find out the interest and then dig deeper into their environment, their outside of work, find out what's available, find out what your programs might offer, and then tailor it to the individual, but always be exploring, which is, for me, the kind of Sherlock Holmes part of finding out the detective work interests of recognition that's become so meaningful to people.
I think it's very noble for a manager to go out of their way to show recognition to their employee. I really like the story that you shared with us.
Mm-hmm.
We have a question that came in from the attendees. So with a lot of people working remote, do you think leaders should ask or re-ask questions since the original preferences may now change?
That's a valid point, Tamika, from this viewer, because yes, it does change. And not only does it change, but your environment is now very limited where you are. You can't see things. You don't know what they're going through, especially if children are at home and they're having to work around those work arrangements. It's very difficult. So yes, I think this is a great idea. And I think this is where we can explore a little bit. We can do a little bit of detective work, and you can also ask some questions, find out what's in their immediate neighborhood, find out what's accessible to them, find out what's accessible to deliver things to the people's, for your employees' home. But yes, I like this idea of doing a recheck of what have you found different? What are you missing? And as I've shared in other sessions that we've done, our remote employees are not as well connected as we used to be when we saw one another face to face. They are not as visible. So I think we need to try and make our recognition more visible to them. It's not just the words anymore. Maybe that card is going to be more important, accompanying some flowers, for example, because we need to bring nature into our homes. We need to bring their favorite foods that are now more favorite because they're stuck. Let's find out what we can. The key here is when you find out the preferences, you need to remember that it's going to take a little longer time to get these things to people. I don't know about you, Tamika, but I'm finding the mail, delivery, all kinds of things takes a long time. So you've got to plan a little bit more in advance than you might normally have done if you just brought it to the office and gave it or left it on their desk and called them up, whatever. And I would say add to it. If you're sending something, don't just send something without a note. Don't ignore when you meet with them or have a meeting with them. Talk about what the recognition you just gave. Don't forget about it. It's like I've seen it in the real on the job scenario where a manager recognized someone on the plant floor by sending a note or something through the program. They met with them in the afternoon and they didn't say anything about the individual's performance. And it discounted the recognition that they had received in the morning from that manager, even though it was done through a program or remotely or email. And then they said nothing in the afternoon. And it lost the value. You can double recognize. You can add to the recognition the next time you see them, or give them a call or do a quick virtual video call. Don't just leave it to sending things to people. So that's probably what I probably need to leave off on that.
So last but not least, my last question is, what else might be important to ask employees when identifying their recognition preferences?
Yeah, I think when you're looking to identify employees' preferences, it's fun. This is the fun part. You don't have to worry about what you're doing yet. You just have to be inquisitive. And I want our viewers to realize this is the fun part. Just ask good questions. You might think of a question after. You can ask them the next time you talk to them. So you can keep adding to this. Don't feel stuck. Keep a record of this. Ask the individual, are you okay if I take notes? Because I don't have the best memory. I'd love to be able to write down some of these things so I can be more responsive to your recognition needs. Be a good listener in that light. Don't just jump in. Listen fully. Be observant around the work environment. I was facilitating a recognition strategy session, and we had about 25 people all on Zoom. And I saw it. I go, was that a budgie I saw flying around in that one person's room? Sure enough, it was a budgie. And she started talking about her budgie. So all of a sudden, I know she loves birds. So you have to be observant. Ask people good questions, open-ended questions. Then you'll learn how to give the best recognition that each person desires. So yeah, be a good detective. Have fun with this. Don't make this chore-like or business-like. Tell them you want their help on how to improve the recognition you give.
Thank you, Roy, for answering all my questions today. And thank you everyone for participating with us. Do you have anything else that you would like to share with us today?
This is the cue, right, Tamika?
Yes, it's the cue.
It's the cue, because sometimes I forget things. But I've created, with the help of Tamika and the team, this wonderful Learn the Recognition Preferences of Your Employees. It's a recognition guide. It's a downloadable PDF. and it's fillable. So you can keep it as a digital tool to start yourself rolling. We wanted to kind of leave you with the next steps you need to take to have a recognition preference interview with one or all of your staff. So this is going to be sent out to everyone, Tamika?
Yes, everyone participating will have it. So you will not have to look for it. We'll just send it out to you. I will follow up with you via email and you will get it.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
This has been great conversation. I really enjoyed the questions that people sent.
Yes, me too. And thank you, Roy, for taking the time today. And thank you everyone for joining, and I will see you at the next conversation.
Wonderful. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.